morning, but I was not in," he said. I realized that the girl had cleverly soothed his resentment at her failure to notify him that she had returned from her trip. Whether it was the result of my own irritability or not, I do not know, but Dicky seemed to grow more indifferent and absent minded each day. He was not irritable with me. He simply had the air of a man absorbed in some pursuit and indifferent to everything else. Grace Draper's attitude toward me puzzled me also. She preserved always the cool but courteous manner one would use to the most casual acquaintance, yet she did not hesitate to avail herself of every possible opportunity to come to the house. Then 2 or 3 times during the latter part of the summer I found that she had managed to join outings of ours. Whether this state of affairs was due to Dicky's wishes or her own subtle planning, I could not determine. I struggled hard with myself to treat the girl with friendliness, but found it impossible. My manner toward her held as much reserve as was compatible with formal courtesy. Of course, this did not please Dicky. Dicky was also developing an unusual sense of punctuality. I always had thought him quite irresponsible concerning the keeping of his appointments, and he never had any set time for arriving at his studio. But he suddenly announced one morning that he must catch the 8:21 train every morning without fail. "The next one gets in too late," he said, "and I have a tremendous amount of work on hand." The explanation was plausible enough, but there was something about it that did not ring true. However, the solution of his sudden solicitude for punctuality did not come to me until Mrs. Hawk, one of my neighbors, called with her daughter Celie and enlightened me. "We have just heard something we thought you ought to know," Celie began primly. "So Ma and I hurried right over so as to put you on your guard." "Yes," sighed Mrs. Hoch, rocking vigorously as she spoke. "Everybody knows I'm no gossip. I believe you can't say nothing good about nobody, you should keep your mouth shut. But I says to Celie as soon as I heard this, 'Celie,' says I, 'it's our duty to tell that poor thing what we know.'" I started to speak, to stop whatever revelation she wished to make, but I might as well have attempted to stem a torrent with a leaf bridge. "We've heard things for a long time," Mrs. Hoch went on, "but we didn't want to say nothing, 'specially as you seem such friends, her running here and all. But we noticed she hain't been coming lately, and then our Willie, he hears things a lot over at the station, and he says it's common talk over there that your husband and that Draper girl are planning to elope. They take the same train every morning together, come home on the same one at night, and they're as friendly as anything." "Mrs. Hoch," I snapped out, "if I had known what you were going to say, I would not have allowed you to speak. Your words are an insult to my husband and myself. You will please to remember never to say anything like this to me again." Mrs. Hoch rose to her feet, her face an unbecoming brick red. Her daughter's black eyes snapped with anger. "Come, Celie," the elder woman said. "I don't stay nowhere to be insulted, when all I've tried to do is give a little friendly warning to a neighbor." Mother and daughter hurried down the path, chattering to each other like two angry squirrels. "Horrid stuck-up thing," I heard Celie say spitefully, as they went through the fence. "I hope Grace Draper does take him away from her. She's got a nerve, I must say, talking to us like that. I don't believe she cares anything about her husband, anyway." She might have changed her mind had she seen me fly to my room as soon as she was safely out of sight, lock the door, and bury my face in the pillows, that neither my mother in law nor Katie should hear the sobs I could not repress. "Dicky, Dicky, Dicky," I moaned. "Have I really lost you?" Of course I knew better than to believe the statement of the elopement. I had seen and heard enough of village life to realize how the slightest circumstance was magnified by the community loafers. That Dicky and the girl took the same train going and coming from the city was a fact borne out by my own observations. I had remarked Dicky's regularity in catching the 8:21 in the mornings, something so opposed to his usual unpunctual habits, and wondered why. Now I had the solution. I told myself, dully, that I was not surprised, that I had really known all along something like this was coming. My thoughts went back to the night, a few weeks before, when I had suffered a similar paroxysm of grief over Dicky's evident interest in the girl. Then all my doubts and fears had been swept away in Dicky's arms on the moonlit veranda. I caught my breath as I realized in all its miserable certainty the impossibility of any such tender scene now. Dicky and I seemed as far apart emotionally as the poles. But the determination I had reached that other night, before Dicky's voice and caresses dispelled my doubts, I made my own again. There was nothing for me to do but to wait quietly, with dignity, until I was absolutely certain that Dicky no longer loved me. Then I would go out of his life without scenes or recriminations. I would not lift a finger to hold him. By the time I had gained control of myself once more, Dicky came home. "Letter for you," he said, "from the office of your old principal." He tossed it into my lap, eyeing it and me curiously. I knew that his desire to know what was in it had made him remember to give it to me. His mother, who had opened her door at his step, came forward eagerly. I opened the letter to find an offer of my old school position. My principal wrote that the woman who was appointed to the position had been suddenly taken ill and could not possibly fill it. He asked me to write him my decision at once, as it was within a few days of the opening of the school. Mechanically I read it aloud. My brain was whirling. I wondered if, perhaps, this was the way out for me. If Dicky really did not love me any longer, I ought to accept this position, even if by taking it I broke my agreement with the Lotus Study Club. I did not like the thought of leaving the women who had thus honored me, but, on the other hand, if Dicky and I were to come to the parting of the ways, I could not refuse this rare chance to get back into the work I had left for his sake. I decided to be guided by his attitude. If he were opposed to my course, I would know that my actions had ceased to be resentful to him, and I would accept the position. But if he showed willingness at the proposition I did not have long to wait. As I lifted my eyes to his face, when I had finished reading the letter, I saw the old familiar black frown on his face. I never had thought that my heart would leap with joy at the sight of Dicky's frown, but it did. Before either of us could say anything, his mother spoke. "Isn't it splendid? You are a most fortunate woman, Margaret, to be able to step back into a position like that. If it had come earlier when my health was so poor, you could not have taken it. Now you can accept it, for I am perfectly able to run the house. You of course will write your acceptance at once." She paused. I knew she expected me to reply, but I closed my lips firmly. Dicky should be the one to decide this. He did it with thoroughness. "I thought we settled all this rot last spring," he said. "Mother, I don't want to be disrespectful, but this is my business and Madge's, not yours. You will refuse, of course, Madge." He turned to me in the old imperious manner. Months before I should have resented it. Now I reveled in it. Dicky cared enough about me, whether from pride or love, to resent my going back to work. "If you wish it, Dicky," I said quietly. He turned a grateful look at me. Then his mother's voice sounded imperiously in our ears. "I think you have said quite enough, Richard," she said with icy